Hello, my name is Van Kaner, and I am teaching some online lessons for violin or fiddle or whatever kind of music you want to play. I feel like the techniques I plan to discuss are universal and that they can be used for whatever type of music you choose to learn. So the topic today is about the limitations of the use of electronic tuners. So I bring this up partly because just so many people I know and like use electronic tuners. Sometimes you'll see them attached to their fiddle just full time, and they can check a note now and then if they want to check their intonation. However, I am going to provide proof today that your tuner can be wrong. So this is a higher level of tuning than perhaps everybody will become aware of, but I challenge you to this experiment. So the difference between the two kinds of tuning that I'm mentioning is a tempered scale, tuning to a tempered scale, which is a scale that has very exact equal distance between each half step in the scale. A piano is tuned this way in modern, at least it's become the normal way to tune a piano, which is that every half step is a distance called 100 cents, and then the next step is another 100 cents. So we have 12 half steps in a 1-octave scale. If we count the keys between a C and a C, there are 12. There are 12 total, and those 12 half steps at 100 cents each adds up to 1,200 cents, which is the full octave. So from an A to an A, there are 1,200 cents in there, and each half step is 100 cents. Now that's in a tempered scale. But in another type of tuning, which is called just intonation, we can use our eardrums to help us figure out when our harmonies are perfectly lined up with what's around us. So one of the intervals that has a discrepancy between, and they all have a discrepancy between the tempered scale and just intonation. So every single tempered scale note is a little bit out of tune if you compare it to another tone that's being generated at the same time. So we need to be able to adjust our tone, our intonation, slight amounts to notice this and to be capable of doing it. If you have a fretted instrument, it's not possible because we either have the note or the next note. We don't have anything in between the notes. If the instrument is a fretless instrument, as a violin or viola or cello, you then can make these micro adjustments to learn what I'm talking about. So it's very exciting because these harmonies become glistening. I don't know what other word to use. They become very satisfying because when we play these intervals exactly in tune, there is a virtual pitch that shows up in our eardrum. This is sometimes called a difference tone. It's sometimes called the missing fundamental because it often lines up with the two notes that are being played as a chord to add the bass note of that chord. So the sound that shows up in our eardrum is a low pitch, not a high pitch. I like to call it an undertone, but that's my own term. I don't think that's used by anybody else. So it's a low note to listen for. And I'll give an example with that interval that I was said I'd focus on an interval, and it's called a major sixths. So if I go 6 notes up from a C, call that 1. That's 6 notes up from a C. And if I play that note, it's called an A. And the low note's a C. The distance between them is called a major sixths. And played together, they sound either pleasant or not quite as pleasant. So I'm going to demonstrate what I mean. I'm going to tune with a tuner. I'll make sure my violin's in tune with the tuner first. So here's a picture of the tuner. So my A says that's okay. So my high A, I can get that in tune pretty easily. It has a nice resonance with the violin. And the C that I started the scale on is down here. Hey, I got that right away. So there's a C, says correct, says correct. I'm going to play them together. And believe it or not, the chord will not be correct, in my opinion. So the tuner, interestingly enough, I found out just by doing this video, here's what my eardrum is listening for. That low F, down 5 notes from the C is a... So that's the note I'm listening for in my eardrum when I play those 2 notes simultaneously. Now that F is sharp and wacky. It's a little buzzy and doesn't sound very good. And I'm going to fix it right now. So I'm going to lower my A just a little bit, that high A. Boom. Even that tuner likes that. It's now a low F that's resonating in my eardrum. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Now I'm going to leave my fingers right where they are, and I'm going to check my A with the tuner up top. And it's not going to agree with the tuner. I had to flatten my A to sound perfect with the other note. So there's my proof. The A says quite flat. So to fix that A, I would have to raise it. And then all of a sudden, my major sixth doesn't sound as good as it could. Okay, I'll come back to the regular camera here. So I hope that's convincing. It's a very they're very small degrees of change in pitch that make these intervals clean up. And when I say clean up, it allows that low note to resonate in our eardrum, and it's just very satisfying. So this particular interval, it's quite different than the tempered scale would tell you. So if you want to know a number, I said a half step is 100 cents in distance. The difference between what's called just intonation, as I'm talking about, when that resonance is just as perfect as it can be in our eardrum, the difference between that and the tempered scale is 15.64 cents for this interval. So closer to 16 cents than 15. So quite a bit of difference. That's enough difference to really notice. So that's one of the intervals that I would suggest not paying attention to your tuner unless you're trying to get that hummy sound registered with the tuner, which I guess is possible. I've discovered that today. And finally, I'll just say that when you tune your violin or any fretless instrument, I would use the A to help me get my one note in tune. I like that says green on my tuner. But when I'm tuning my D, I'm going to do it by ear. And my G by ear. And my E by ear. And what that does is it means my tuning of the A agrees with the tuner, but the D is going to be a little bit flat compared to the tuner, and the G even more flat compared to the tuner because we're adding, sort of doubling the difference between the tempered scale and the just intonation. So if your tuner, after you tuned by ear, says your G is a little bit flat, I would not worry. I think you might be a little more correct than the tuner because we added together these different differences between the A and the G. We get far enough away that there is a noticeable difference on your tuner. So I encourage you not to rely so much on the tuner and to rely more on your ears. So I'll talk more about this and other intervals and maybe give an example of a tune that I love that I recently learned called Waltz till Tobin, and it's a Swedish tune that has a wonderful chance to play a bunch of major sixths and to listen for those low undertones, as I call them. All right, I hope you found this interesting. And if you play the piano, I'm not judging you at all, but you can't do this experiment on the piano because it's just not, you're not able to change pitches the way we can with our voice or with a fretless instrument. So good luck. If you like this little video, please like it. And if you want to see more of them, you may subscribe. I plan to do quite a few this year. Thank you for watching.